You're watching 38IZ videos. This is Val Tapia. Our guest musician today is part of an annual holiday event that will be coming to town next month. It's called the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is the name of the band, name of the artist. And with us we have one of the vocalists with the band is Jeff Scott Soto, and he has pretty much a long history, a 30-year recording history, and we're going to go through that as much as we can within the time limit that we have. But without further ado, from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Mr. Jeff Scott Soto. Jeff, how are you doing today?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing great.
Good. To get started, why don't we go and start with TSO? How did you become first involved in this? I believe you've been 10th or 11th year with them. Is that correct?
This will be my 11th winter tour with them, yes.
Yeah.
I started in 2007 with them, but that was only studio work. I started working with Paul O'Neill in the studio during the Night Castle recordings, and then it was shortly after that they invited me to join the tour. So 2008 was my first tour with them. And it actually came about through Al Petrelli, the musical director on the West Coast, the coast that I sing for, because we do have two productions on this tour. I just recently parted ways with Journey, and I got a call from Al saying that I knew about the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. We'd spoken about it before. They were saying that they actually got a call from Al saying that his boss, Paul O'Neill, was looking for a baritone, a particular voice for the Night Castle album that they were working on currently at that time. And yeah, you can see that right behind me.
Yep.
From that, they flew me out to Tampa. I think I spent maybe 20 minutes singing with Paul, and the other 7 hours just talking about everything from religion to politics to life. And he inducted me right there and then. It was a given based on the fact that I understood and I got the whole drill of what he was trying to achieve with his story, with that particular story. And as I said, from that point on, I've been a part of the family, and I'm going into my 11th tour starting in, I think, about 2 days. I'm heading out to Omaha to start rehearsing with the guys.
Yeah. What exactly, just going by the rehearsals, what kind of rehearsal, what does it take to get this machine going?
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to be a part of all the mechanics behind it. There's a whole lot that goes behind it. From I guess they probably start around I'm going to say around February or March.
Oh, wow.
As far as discussing what the stage is going to be like, what the next production is going to be like. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes. I mean, we're the last factor. The musical side, that's, as far as I'm concerned, the easiest part, because there's so much that has to happen before we actually come into rehearsals.
Right.
And again, that's a lot of that has to do with Al Petrelli, who is the musical director, and he pretty much takes care of both sides, just making sure that all the musical tweaks are all there and everybody's basically in shape and ready to hit this thing when we're ready to hit it in November.
Yeah. So how does what's Al Petrelli? We all know he's a fantastic guitar player. What's he like as a musical director?
He's basically, what you see is what you get. He's tough as nails, but he's sweet as pie. That's right. The best way to describe Al. He expects everybody to deliver the same way he does and the same way he has. Paul O'Neill had and still has this vision. Even though we lost him last year, we still have to follow the vision that Paul set forth when he created this whole machine, this whole animal here.
Right.
And, we come into this whole thing respecting exactly what he had visioned. And now it's up to Al and the other powers that be to carry it forward. And it's up to us to carry it forward just the same. So Al is he's one of my best friends, and he's everybody's best friend when it comes to everybody doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But trust me, you don't want to show up and not deliver, because I've seen the other side of him. And again, it has everything to do with, we have to respect what this whole thing is all about.
Well, with that in mind, how do you think the 2017 tour went? Obviously, that was the first without Paul. Were you guys satisfied with the end result?
I think everybody was. I mean, it certainly turned out to be one of the biggest selling TSO tours of all time, to be honest.
Wow.
And it was very emotional in the beginning, because we not only lost Paul O'Neill, we lost another longtime member of TSO, which is David Zavlodowski, who was the bass player in my band Soto, just the same as he was on the road with this other band that ultimately he lost his life with. So it was very emotional getting it all started, and there were some emotional times on stage, but overall on the level of what was expected, out there when we were actually hitting the tour, it was one of the biggest and one of the best in TSO history.
Right. So on that note, let's go back to the beginning of Jeff Scott Soto's career. I became, as I think a lot of rock fans became, you had a stint with none other than Yngwie Malmsteen. Give us a little bit, how did you meet him? And just give us a little bit of, what are your recollections of recording the Rising Force album and Marching Out? And give us a little bit of little cool stories if you could.
Well, it's I'll give you the abridged version. It's
right.
Yngwie just recently left Alcatraz. This was in '84, and as he was looking for a singer, I saw an ad that popped up on MTV just randomly. Didn't even catch all the numbers and all the information of where to send the tape. I have the tape I sent him. I actually happened to be 16 when I was singing on it. I was only 18 when I met him. So it was a shot in the dark, and it was one of those things that I honestly, it's like winning the lottery. I would have never expected in a million years just to get a call, much less actually go audition for him, much less get the gig. All of the above happened, and I later found out that I was the only person out of the box of tapes that were submitted that he actually auditioned, that he actually checked out. So it was a testament to where I was even at that time as an 18-year-old singer. I was worthy enough to be able to sing for somebody like Yngwie. And as far as I'm concerned, you listen to those two records that we did together, and it's timeless. We created classics that we didn't realize that we were actually being a part of.
Yeah. So, and the two records, you had a little more input on the second record, Marching Out. What are your recollections of that record?
Well, the first album he had already pre-written before I even met him, and right. the two songs that I sing on that first record, he was actually supposed to sing on originally. So it was a last-minute decision. On the 11th hour, they decided to have me sing on them, and that's the only reason I even appeared on that one. And my debut was supposed to be on the Marching Out album, the second one. And so yeah, by that point, by the time we'd already finished that recording, we had already been writing and getting the second album, which was supposed to be officially the first band album. Sort of. So it's kind of confusing because I even left the band after that came out. Somebody did my video. It's just a big jumbo. But right. Bottom line, it was a great start. It pretty much started spinning the wheels for where I ended up ultimately, which is here talking to you about TSO.
So with that, how did on the Marching Out? The first time I saw it was Yngwie. It was opening for AC/DC, actually, if I remember. I want to say October 1985, and the Marching Out record was just released. And that's when I had found out this new singer doesn't sound like Jeff Scott, so it doesn't look like him. So something was wrong. So I presume I think his name was.
Yeah, I'm so glad you caught onto that because a lot of people I meet so many people on the road or just anywhere I am.
Right.
They'll remind me that they saw me on the AC/DC tour or the Dio tour
right.
or whatever tour that Mark Bowles happened to be singing because he was my predecessor.
Right.
And it's I hate popping that balloon when I go to them and say, sorry, that wasn't me. That was Mark Bowles.
Right.
But make sure you had the nosebleed seat. So that's
right.
why you couldn't tell the difference between myself, with 6'3", and Mark is, pretty much shorter than me.
Right.
They couldn't really tell the difference between the two of us.
Yeah. And on that, and obviously the video you mentioned for I'll See the Light Tonight, that was clearly a totally different singer. And I just remember that. What was that? What was that?
That was Mark. Yeah.
So, overall, though, what was the experience working with Yngwie? Because as you know more than anybody, but the reputation he has isn't the greatest with lead singers. But you seem you're okay with it. You're proud of the records and.
Well, yeah. I mean, this was the blueprint to the beginning of my career. This is where it all started. Right. So, of course, I'm proud of those records. I'm proud of what we actually achieved together. And as far as where he is right now, I mean. I hear a lot of smack. I hear a lot of different things going on. Bottom line is, God bless him. If he's happy doing what he's doing, then let him keep doing it. I'm happy where I am. I'm over the moon where I am. Right. So there's no reason to talk about the past or gripe about the past.
Right.
Those are the early beginnings for me. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a great blueprint for me. It led me to eventually where I am today, and I have nothing but fond memories.
If the viewers who are tuning in, we're speaking with lead vocalist Jeff Scott Soto of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and the Trans-Siberian Orchestra will be in town on Sunday, December 2nd at the Gila River Arena. There's two shows actually, 3:30 and 7:30 p.m. and tickets are available at the Gila River box office and GilaRiverArena.com. And we'll talk a little more about that. And Jeff, so you mentioned Journey a little while ago. To go a little more forward, you were in Journey for roughly a year, and
Yeah.
I mean, all these guitarists you got to work with is incredible. So, meeting Neil Schon, and you and Neil Schon were in a band. I think it was called Soul Circus, if memory serves. And that obviously led you to Journey, I presume.
Yeah. Well, Neil knew I could sing basically the entire Journey catalog that Steve Perry was involved in, and we used to kind of toy around with it at rehearsals, and even sometimes we bring it up on like a medley or do something live when we were doing the Soul Circus tour. So he knew I was capable of pulling it off. And when they were in a bind, when Steve Augeri got ill and he had to go home instead of canceling the tour, that's where I stepped in. I didn't think it would get anywhere past than just filling in for him on the tour. And I eventually was inducted as their permanent singer, but unfortunately that didn't last that much longer once we got into 2007. Hence where all of this came about. Because to be honest with you, if it did work out with Journey, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you right now. I don't think the whole TSO thing would have transpired the way it did, because everything just kind of fell into place because of the Night Castle record. So I'm very happy the way things turned out. And again, I don't look back at anything negative in my past or anything that might have ended negatively, because the old saying is so true: for every door that closes, a new door opens, and and TSO is that new door, and it continues to be that new door for me.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, because you were with, I mean, your Journey, and then right into the TSO, and you're on the 20th anniversary of this tour now. So, wow, what a gig to have, and continue to have.
Well, and I say it every year. I count my lucky stars that I'm still there, because being probably now up there in age, they've got a lot of great singers, got a lot of great new talent, and I'm holding on to as long as I can, as long as they'll have me, as long as I want to be a part of the TSO family. Right. And I do understand, the nature of the business. They have to keep the machine rolling. So as long as I'm delivering, as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and bringing forth the message and the story and the music that Paul O'Neill wrote and composed, then I'm extremely lucky and extremely humbled to be there.
So we talked a little about Al Pitrelli and as a musical director. What was it like working and knowing Paul O'Neill?
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult one to put into words, because Paul was such a unique person. I kind of equate him to I guess I call him a modern day Santa Claus, because he truly was such a giving person. He was such a jolly person, and he was such a positive person in a world that has a lot of negativity, in a world that has a lot of all you have to do is turn on the news and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right. He always found the positive. He always found the good in people, and that's what his stories reflect. His stories reflected hope and faith. And if you have those two items, you can always get through life past all the other stuff that comes your way.
So, out of curiosity, now that you're on your 10th year, 11th year, are there any other vocalists you can think of that you would like to perhaps see on the TSO stage along with yourself?
Well, I've brought a few actually, and actually one of the newest members that is coming into the TSO fold is Caleb Johnson. He was an American Idol winner from I guess about 5 or 6 years back, and I think that hurt him coming in sooner, because I think the whole American Idol thing was probably something that they didn't want to really have to tap into, dabble into. It's one of the things when you get into the TSO thing, we try not to use it as a platform to sell ourselves or to even sell something that we've already established in our own careers. Right. We really hone in on TSO, we concentrate on TSO, and I think the American Idol thing might have been a distraction, but I think enough years have passed. And the fact that he's just an incredible vocalist, I'm so glad that he's actually in there with us. And the same goes with a few other members that are part of the TSO family. Luckily, I've been able to bring a few people along, and it's a great thing to be able to pass on to other singers and other people that I feel are talented and should be a part of this. Right.
What are your recollections of recording Night Castle? I think it was 2009. And I mean, to be part of that coming into it must have been quite a challenge.
Well, the first part was learning how Paul works and how Paul thinks, and then translating that into the actual songs. I mean, I've been singing all my life. I've been recording for, like you said, over 30 years. So I have a sense of how it works for me and how I do things. You have to throw all of that out of the window. There's a whole different process on how to work with Paul O'Neill, and he really knew how to put every single person he works with in a particular zone to get that performance out of them. Right. And sometimes he realizes it's almost there, so you might have to come in and redo something 30 times until he gets that performance from you. Right. But that's I'm just going to say, one of the examples of what a perfectionist he was. He knew exactly what he wanted. If it wasn't there, he knew how to get it out of you. And that's what I loved about working with Paul. And
I take it you took everything he taught you, and you put it into your own performances for solo work as well.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I definitely have to credit the man for, is I would have never guessed that the way he works and how he works would have actually influenced me later. And it absolutely does. I find myself being a little more theatrical and a little more absorbed by music and what I'm actually singing and what I'm saying and the messages that I'm putting across in my own music. So I did learn a lot from Paul, and I'm so grateful, and I owe the man a lot. He really, really took me to another place.
And just a reminder, I'm speaking with vocalist Jeff Scott Soto of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and TSO will be playing here on Sunday, December 2nd at the Gila River Arena. Tickets are available now, available at GilaRiverArena.com and the Gila River Arena box office. 2 shows. And I also want to say, for both shows, they are benefits, if you will. $1 for each ticket sold. For the 3:30 show will go to Operation Santa Claus, and the 7:30 show will be $1 of each ticket will go to Arizona Animal Welfare League. And awesome. I talked with Al last year about this, Jeff, and philanthropy was very important to Paul too, and that's something that should never be overlooked when it comes to these TSO shows.
Well, absolutely, and I mean, one of the things that he taught us is to be grateful for everything that you're able to achieve in life. Mm-hmm. And from that gratefulness comes from the charitable side of things. He wasn't all about give me. He was all about giving back.
Right.
And again, that's something that we all learned from and something we all took from him and we apply in our own personal lives and our own personal careers. I always found that such a unique thing and such an incredible thing to be able to give so much back to the local community for every show that we do, and for every ticket that's sold. It's not a lot to actually put back in, but in the end, it becomes a lot when you actually see those checks at the end of the night that we're actually donating to the local charities. It's what an incredible way to actually give back.
Right. And as if truth be told, I guess you guys are at over 15 million to local charities all over the country, if I'm correct.
Your guess is as good as mine, but that sounds about right.
So do you think we'll see new music from TSO in the future for a new album anytime?
I would imagine so. O'Neill never rested on his own laurels. He was always pushing the envelope, always recording new stuff. I've done so many songs with him that have never seen the light of day. Right. So I'm hoping that somewhere along the way that a lot of these things are going to be put together or completed, because he didn't just make records, as most of you know, most TSO fans know. He wrote stories, and the music actually translated or were related to those stories. Right. So it's not like you could just take a bunch of songs and just put them together and make an album like a lot of people do. All of his records are themes, and they're all stories, and they all have to kind of fit together. So there's a lot of it out there, and I don't know. I'm not privy to that information, right. But I'm hoping that someday that a lot of these things that we were working on and that he was working on until his untimely demise eventually see the light of day.
So here's just a fun question. I always like to ask the artists we talk to that the viewers get a kick out of it from any kind of email that we get. What was the first album you ever bought and the first concert you ever attended?
First album I ever bought, I think, was Styx, Pieces of 8 in 1978. And the first concert, oh boy, this is a funnier one. It was the Bee Gees at Dodger Stadium with Andy Gibb as it wasn't the opening act, but he was a special guest included in there. So the Bee Gees in 77, and I would imagine there was the Styx Pieces of 8 album in 78.
Who are some of your influences growing up, and who you still look up to today?
Well, going back to the whole Journey thing, Steve Perry was a massive, massive influence on me, and that was one of the reasons why, even naturally, my voice set so perfectly in what I was doing with the band. Even though I don't sound like Perry, I'm not trying to copy him. I knew how to cop his vibe based on the years and the decades of listening to his voice and it being such a huge influence on me. Freddie Mercury was another one. Again, Freddie Mercury and Queen, they tapped into every different musical world and left no stone unturned musically. And that's one of the reasons I love Queen. It's another reason why I love TSO so much. There's a very close distinction between the two in the sense of not just doing one thing. They do so many different things, and they tap into a whole world of music that take the listener into a journey. I didn't want to have to say it.
Right. Well, one thing with the TSO, I think for those who haven't seen it, like I said, it really is, it's a little bit of Charles Dickens, Christmas Carol, a little bit of progressive rock, and a lot of classical on steroids.
Absolutely.
So I think, go ahead. What was that?
With a lot of lights.
Yes. And what differences do you think will be from last year to this year?
Every year it's bigger, louder, and better, and that's all I can say. I without giving anything away, you just have to expect that it's always gonna dwarf the year before, and I'm just saying I'm excited to see what new toys and what new nooks and crannies we're going to be uncovering on this next tour.
And then also, as far as the growth of TSO in general, the fact there is TSO West and TSO East, it really is a holiday event like no other. And on an arena level, that's got to be gratifying in every way imaginable.
Absolutely. And the only reason we have the two lineups is because when you think about the holiday season, it's only like a short window of November, December to be able to pull off that kind of music and that just bringing everybody into the whole Christmas feeling and the whole holiday feeling. It's impossible for just one band to cover the entire country in the course of 2 months. It's almost impossible for the two bands to cover the entire course of the U.S. So between the two of us, they map and even it out enough that we can actually pull this all off. And it's exhausting sometimes, but man, we love it. And this is what we live for. This is what we've been working for all our lives. Be able to pull something like this off and to be able to make so many people happy in such a short amount of time like we are.
Is it easy to take things for granted with the TSO in the sense that it is a holiday show, but you guys still rehearse it like it's your first show? I mean, that's really important, especially to Al. Is that correct? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's important for all of us to feel like it's already ingrained in us and we're ready to hit it. Even we want to be able to go into it without thinking, without wondering, without being nervous, with all those things. The whole idea of putting it together and putting us together for the amount of time that we're rehearsing it's for a reason. If we just rehearse for a few days or for a week, we wouldn't be ready. It wouldn't have the sense of the timing and the way the paces and all that stuff that we have to work on that naturally occur on a tour once the tour is already started. Where that already occurred before we actually hit the first note on the first show. So that's why it's important that they get us together the amount of time that they do.
Right. Just to wind this up, you're just tuning in. We're speaking with Jeff Scott Soto. He is one of the vocalists of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And Trans-Siberian Orchestra, again, will be here on Sunday, December 2nd at Gila River Arena. Tickets are available at GilaRiverArena.com and the box office. And just to wind down, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to the show. And anything you want to say to the fans out there, TSO, that you're welcome to say it right now.
It's the same old traditional message that I would say to anybody at any time. I mean, thanks is not big enough to show our appreciation for the years and the support and the loyalty, especially the repeat offenders, which is a term that Al coined for a lot of the people that come and see us every year, and they bring their families, and it truly is not Christmas, even for us in the band, until we actually get together and put this show on the road. Sure, we sacrifice our own families. We sacrifice our loved ones to come and do this, but we also have built a family of our own when it comes to the TSO show. And so it's like we're bringing our family to yours, and we couldn't be any more thankful than seeing your faces every year.
All right, great. Thanks again, Jeff. One more quick question. The cover you recently did of Steve Perry's What Was, how'd that come about? And how difficult was it to sing?
Oh, it's not difficult at all to sing because, first of all, it was one of the later releases of Steve Perry's. It's his voice has obviously come down a little bit in range, so
Right.
it was a little easier than if he still had that high tenor thing. I probably wouldn't have been able to pull it off. But that was the idea of the record company I've been affiliated for the past 15 years or more, Frontiers Records. They came to me and said, they asked me if I would want to do something like this as a sort of a welcoming back. There was no money to be made. There was nothing to gain except for the message to Steve that the world is welcoming him back into the music world.
Right.
And it was such a cool thing to do. And I hope he's heard it. And if he has, I hope he liked it.
Sounds good, Jeff. Again, thanks again for your time, and we look forward to TSO's return on December 2nd. And
All right.
with that, I'll go ahead and introduce them. Coming up next, we'll play the 1996 classic Christmas Eve Sarajevo, 1224, right here on 38IZ Videos. Enjoy.
Thanks, Val.
Yeah, thank you.